The three biggest mistakes estate agents make with AML. Today, I'm joined by Sue Hopson, who is the queen of compliance from the South Coast, and she's here to talk to me about the biggest mistakes, three of them, that estate agents make with AML. Sue, what are the three biggest mistakes? Talk to me.
We've got to start with registration. Very topical. Every time that the HMRC bring out that list, it is outstanding how many people still have not registered. I'm sure these businesses aren't new. I'm sure they've been going for years and they haven't even registered to trade as an agent. It's got to be the biggest mistake ever. It is a risk-based approach, AML, but actually that's a risk too far by not registering. So I don't understand it. I think my issues would be they do name and shame these people, and they do always have a caveat that says they may have already remedied what the problem was, which is great, but it just then makes you think, how do they run their business? How do they remember to tax their car? How do they remember to get up in the morning? How do they remember to do the viewing for your property if they can't remember to register just once a year and pay the money?
So is it incumbent on the estate agent to register the first time, and then do they then send you like a DVLA or a little reminder or something?
Well, it's all done through the same portal every year. So really, they just need to diarise it. And sometimes the excuse is, I wasn't reminded. But actually, you don't need to be reminded. Not as an estate agent. You
Don't they
shouldn't
even
need
send
to
you a
be
little
reminded.
email just saying you're coming to an end?
Well, I think they probably do, but I
Probably
suspect
goes
like
to spam.
it's probably, yes, that's probably where it's gone. And they probably just say they just ignore it because they have had too many emails anyway. So it's just another one that they can ignore.
We'll get back to that one. So, I mean, what sort of the fines are involved with, roughly, with not even registering?
Well, the fines can vary. It depends on how long they haven't registered. And actually, in my line of work, I have seen offices that have been trading for a number of years under the radar. And of course, they have suddenly realised they haven't got a registration. And of course, that will be heavily penalised because you should have noticed the year you realised that you didn't actually have any registration. It's not really a good excuse to say that you didn't know, and especially years on the trot. You can't say you didn't know. So, of course, it multiplies up. I always think the best thing is honesty is the best policy. And if you realise that you haven't actually registered and you should have done, then just be honest and own up, and then hopefully they will mitigate those fines against you. They won't levy such large fines on
What
you.
if I just went online and registered just like that? Would they notice? Would they know that I hadn't had?
They would, because you need to tell them since from when you've been trading, and then they will see that you've been trading for years. The other problem that people do is that they don't realise it's per office. So it's if you've got two offices trading, you have to have AML for both.
Even
So
if they're the same limited company?
yes, so that was also an issue, that some people do actually fall foul of that. And I've seen those as well. But yeah, it's just shocking how the first basics, we have so few rules to follow in our industry that are regulated and legislated as a business, that actually this is just one of the simplest things to do. Just register and pay.
So if there are agents out there that haven't registered or let it slip, they're going to get a fine, are they?
They will get a fine. And I think, as I say, it's mitigating
Could you
circumstances.
give us like a little slap on the wrist fine by saying, look, did you ring him up and say, look, I missed it 6 months ago?
Yeah, again, it's quite interesting because if you read the actual gov.uk regarding the penalties and how they police it, they say it's all about education. So they do actually say that they give people warnings. And that's even more worrying, I guess, because if somebody who's had a warning and still ends up on that list with a fine, then really, are they worth their salt, and should they really be trading? I have met agents who've had substantial fines, and I have met a gentleman who actually decided to try to get the fine reduced, and he did get it reduced, but it was still over £12,000. That's quite a lot of money in anybody's pocket, and it's just silly, wasted money. Just register.
Do you think it's right that they get named and shamed, though, in the press?
I do think it's right. I think I know that sounds quite harsh, but It's such a simple rule to follow. And I think that it is correct that if you cannot get yourself registered, you should be put on a public list. I think we should have more public lists of people who've done things incorrectly. We're not liked as an industry to start with. So let's wheedle out these people who are just not doing what they should do and making it bad for the rest of us. Naming and shaming is correct. And I think that local agents should always be looking to see if one of their other local agents is in that name and shame list. I'm not saying to use it in their marketing or in their pitches, but it does make them aware if there are some problems going forward with maybe a competitor who's taken a property on. You might want to use that as an angle at some point.
What's the second mistake that most estate agents make with AML?
I would say record keeping. They're really bad at record keeping. In fact, it's just the nature of the beast. For a sales agent, it's about the chase. It's the thrill of the chase. It's the way of getting to the end and getting that money through the door. And if you don't take the details at the start, if you don't do their AML registration, you don't do their client due diligence, you don't look at the risk, you don't take their ID, you don't take their proof of address, you're so excited before you know it, the property's on the market. And you'll never go backwards because you'll now be talking about viewings. Now you're talking about offers. And actually, you've forgotten that you haven't ticked the first box. So their record keeping is very poor in some circumstances. And again, by going out and doing compliance audits for businesses, it's very interesting that what they think they've got on file and what they actually have on file. And we're very trusting in offices, and so we should do. We're a team. But there should be somebody overseeing it. There needs to be someone who is a bit of a box ticker or a box checker. And these things wouldn't happen then. But when I do go out, I often see very sketchy records on file.
It's just about systemizing the business, isn't it? Which is not what agents like doing.
No. And again, controversial perhaps it is, but salespeople are not detail people. Lettings people have to be because there's so much more compliance. There's so many more documents. Sales have the benefit and beauty of knowing that there's a solicitor that's going to be part of that transaction. And therefore, they sort of feel like if they've missed that bit, the solicitor will pick it up. And I'm sure that's the attitude. And you also still have this attitude as to, why am I policing this? Why is it my job? Surely it's not my job. The solicitor does it anyway. We're just doubling up.
I mean, do you like the fact that, it can easily be outsourced, can't it, all this?
Absolutely. There's always a way to make it easier. And all of the CRM systems now, we've got so many automated ways of doing things that, again, there's no excuse really. The automates will send out the information to the clients to tell them what you need. And then they'll chase it up if you haven't got it, if the dates aren't filled in. It's simple.
And you can actually make a bit of money from this because...
You can. There is, again, maybe that's why I do compliance now, and maybe that's why I'm not on the shop floor, but I'm not mad about kickbacks and on obviously making money from people. But yes, there is a way of making money from a client by outsourcing and getting someone else to do the work. But you equally can do it yourself. There is no right or wrong way, but there is a right or wrong way when it becomes complex. And that's when you should seek additional help, because there are some very complicated networks of businesses, people, arrangements out there that will require a specialist take on it.
One thing that a lot of agents, I get a feeling, is this proof of funds. And then some people say source of funds. Where do we stand with that, Sue?
Again, this is what I always get when I go through the files. So I'm there making sure we've ticked all the boxes and they've got a buyer. Great. Fantastic news. That's what the whole aim of the game is. And then I say, have you checked their source of funds? Yeah, I've got proof of funds. No, not proof of funds. This is not whether they can afford it. This is where is the money coming from? That's the whole point of AML. The proof of funds is for the purposes to show your vendor that actually they can afford it. I've done my due diligence. They've got a mortgage in principle. They've got a deposit from mum and dad, or they've been saving for months and weeks and years. This is about the source. Where has that money come from? That's what anti-money laundering is about. It's about where the money's come from. And is it legitimate money, And of course, again, I don't find that on the files very often. And sometimes, again, I'll say, oh, well, that's interesting. There's a letter on file from mum and dad that say, we're providing the deposit. So where are the checks on mum and dad? Well, I didn't know I needed to do any. well, you're going to have to do client due diligence and do a risk assessment on them now. They are part of this whole transaction and the money is coming from them. How do you know that mum's not a drug dealer on the side? You know, you just don't know, do you? You've not met them, but she's providing the money. So
Sell some good gear.
even gangster granny might be up to it. So you just don't know. You just have to make sure that no part is left uninspected, really, because, you know, we're all subject to fraudulent people, unfortunately, nowadays.
Fortunately so.
And don't, just because it's mum and dad providing a nice hefty deposit doesn't mean to see they're clean.
What's the third mistake?
Third mistake is training. And again, I think it's one of these things, unfortunately for sales, they just want to go out and get done with it. They don't want to have the time training. A lot of people find training boring now. Training hasn't always moved on as it should do. It can be very one-sided, just sit and read this. But actually, one of my biggest tips I always say, if I go in and find a business that's non-compliant, I just tell them, have you read the guidance that HMRC have issued? And they go, what guidance? So, I mean, that's like the straightforward first thing you need to do. You know, when you put a sales agency agreement in place, you need to know what's in that agency agreement because you know what you need to be doing. And that's why you need to read these as well, because the guidance is there to tell you what you should be doing and how you should be risk approaching this basis.
Sue, that's been absolutely fantastic. Thank you for spending your time telling us the 3 big mistakes that estate agents make when it comes to AML. Thank you for your time today.
Thanks, Chris.